we will talk about today. From a guy with unusually stretchy skin to someone who was pregnant with his own twin brother, here are 10 men you won't believe actually exist. Number 10. Gary Turner. He may not be the real-life equivalent of Mr. Fantastic, but Gary Turner didn't earn his nickname of the Elastic Man for nothing. Gary has the stretchiest skin in the world. So stretchy, in fact, that the Guinness Book of World Records gave him that title back in 2009, and he still holds it to this day. He knew about his stretchy skin from an early age. At the age of 13, doctors figured out that his stretchy skin was due to a very rare and extreme case of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. This is a genetic disorder of connecting tissues that affects ligaments, skin, and internal organs. In this condition, the collagen, which strengthens and determines the elasticity of skin, becomes defective, which leads to the loosening of skin and other problems. Despite all that, he still managed to find work. He is a sideshow performer, and his acts include pulling on his tummy skin, pulling his chest skin over his face, and many more feats showing off his elasticity. Number 9. Rolf Buchholz. For some people, even getting an ear pierced can be a terrible ordeal. Could you imagine having hundreds of them done all over your body? Rolf Buchholz from Dortmund, Germany, has a total of 453 studs and rings all over his body, and has recently been acknowledged by Guinness as the most pierced man in the world. The 52-year-old computer expert discovered the world of piercing 11 years ago and loved it so much that he has since then had 453 piercings in various parts of his body. Looking at him, you'd probably think most of them are in his head and face, but you'd be wrong. Rolf has 94 piercings in and around his lips, 25 in his eyebrows, 8 in his nose, and a whopping 278 in his genital area. Yikes. I don't need to see it to believe it, but I wonder how he managed to fit that many in such a small area. Apart from his passion for piercings, Buchholz also has a thing for tattoos, and sports a full body suit that covers his entire torso and limbs. Number 8. Paul Carrison. Paul Carrison is a person that is very easy to pick out in a crowd because of his unique look. His skin is blue. In 2008, Paul Carrison appeared on national television to reveal his unordinary skin to the world. Prior to his TV debut, Paul had been living as a recluse, limiting his time in public as much as possible. Paul grew up with red hair and fair skin. During his middle-aged years, he came down with a serious case of dermatitis and flaky skin on his face. Then, one day, he saw an ad for an old wives' remedy and decided to give it a try. The ad was for a concoction called colloidal silver, a once popular cold and flu remedy used in the early 20th century and up until the 1950s. The solution, made up of tiny silver particles, promised to be a cure-all. Paul started drinking 10 ounces of his own homebrewed serum every day, and he did so for over a decade. The good news is, his dermatitis cleared up. Thing is, his skin is now permanently blue, and his resemblance to Papa Smurf is extremely uncanny. Number 7. Henry Damon. Comic book fanatic Henry Damon has taken his devotion to a certain Marvel villain to new heights. He's slowly transforming himself into the Red Skull. The man has already had part of his nose removed and subdermal implants placed in his forehead in order to resemble the leader of fictional Nazi terrorist organization Hydra. He has also tattooed his eyeballs black and undergone substantial red and black face tattoos. You might think that only a crazy person would go through such lengths to look like a fictional character, but it's quite the contrary. According to Damon's friend Pablo Hernandez, he is an excellent son, husband, and father. It just so happened that he's into extreme body modification. His plastic surgeon also says that Damon is a physically and intellectually healthy person. In fact, extensive psychological tests were conducted on him to ensure that he was ready for the surgery. In a move that seemingly contradicts his mental stability, Damon now only refers to himself as the Red Skull and will not answer to any other name. A few more subdermal implants and facial tattoos to go, and he'll definitely be the spitting image of Captain America's mortal enemy. Number 6. Chandra Vishnu. Right around the time he was getting married to his wife over 30 years ago, an Indonesian man named Chandra Vishnu started noticing weird bumps on his back resembling little bubbles. He started getting more of them, until one day they covered his entire body. From then on, the residents of Chandervie's village referred to him as the Bubble Skin Man. After more than 2 decades of trying to figure out the cause of his condition, and of course finding a cure, the Bubble Skin Man was diagnosed with neurofibromatosis type 1, a disease that causes non-cancerous tumors to appear all over his body. This condition is caused by a gene defect and affects up to 1 in 2,500 people. It has actually been thought that the Elephant Man himself, Joseph Merrick, also suffered from this ailment in conjunction with Proteus syndrome. Chandra has been trying to find a cure and an explanation for his bubble skin for years, only to finally get an answer from dermatologist Anthony Gaspari from Maryland. There are treatments available for him, but unfortunately, no lasting cure. Number 5. Tom Staniford. Tom Staniford is a very unique man. He has a law degree, speaks French, and still finds time to race his bike in the Paralympics. Oh, and he also has 0 body fat, not because of a grueling exercise routine, but rather to an extremely rare condition that prevents his body from storing body fat. Although he was born a normal weight, he lost all of the fat around his face and limbs during his childhood, and yet his body still thinks he's obese, meaning he has type 2 diabetes. His hearing also deteriorated when he was 10, and he has worn hearing aids since. He suffers from a condition called mandibular dysplasia with deafness and progeroid features, or MDP syndrome for short. The condition is so rare that only 8 people have this in the entire world. To cope with this condition, Staniford has worked out a routine that allows him to control his diabetes and live his life to the fullest while staying relatively healthy. Number 4. Amu Haji. Probably tired of living with people that he found extremely annoying, Amu Haji one day decided to isolate himself from the rest of the world and give up all of its comforts, and that includes the joys of indoor plumbing. Now, more than 6 decades later, he still hasn't taken a bath, not even wiping his face with a wet towel. This man is now way into his 80s and has quite an unusual story indeed. He once lived in Daiga, Iran, before he decided to shun civilization altogether. According to him, he's happier this way even without worldly possessions, and in this case, having a proper bathroom. Amu Haji, who promised he would never shower again, has been nicknamed the world's dirtiest man, and now holds this record since his predecessor was a man from India who had gone a total of 35 years without bathing. Number 3. Sun Mingming. Sun Mingming is a professional basketball player from China and is believed to be the tallest basketball player in the world. He was born in a small town near Bayan County, Harbin, in Heilongjiang Province, China. He has 2 siblings, a brother and a sister, both of whom did not get their brother's towering height. Although he was quite tall for his age, he didn't start playing basketball until he was 15 years old. Sun attempted and played basketball at Ventura College, a community college in Ventura, California. He played basketball there for only a year before going pro. Although he was not drafted into the NBA, Sun played with several American minor league teams, including the USBL team Dodge City Legend, the ABA team Maryland Nighthawks, and the IBL team Grand Rapids Flight. He was even drafted by the Harlem Globetrotters in 2007, being the tallest player in their history to be drafted by them, although he'd never play for them. He's married to Zhu Yan, who is 6 feet 1 inch and a handball player. They met at the National Games of China and eventually fell in love. Together, they're known as the tallest married couple in the world. Sun Mingming is also an actor, having appeared in films like Rush Hour 3 and Funny. Number 2. Sahaj Jaribi. This man is literally the Hulk, or to be more specific, the Iranian Hulk, and it's not hard to see why. Sahaj Jaribi is an Iranian bodybuilder, weightlifter, and an MMA fighter that looks like he can literally punch a hole right through your chest. Jaribi reportedly weighs a whopping 390 pounds. Because it's the internet, there have been some accusations that he has more fat than muscle mass, and that he photoshops his photos, but no evidence has been found of this. After starting his social media and posting his very imposing photos online, he's become an instant internet celebrity, having more than 600,000 followers on Instagram alone. He's still an active MMA fighter, and he did have a fight scheduled against Martin Ford on April 2nd, 2022 in London, but it got cancelled for one. Sanju Bhagat. Sanju Bhagat was a man that was once thought to be pregnant due to the size of his stomach. It was so large that he could barely breathe. Living in India, he lived feeling self-conscious for most of his life, until one day in 1999 when he was rushed to the hospital for undisclosed reasons. Upon seeing him, doctors immediately concluded that he had a large tumor and decided to surgically remove it immediately. And when they did cut him open, what they saw inside the man's belly caught them off guard. Inside Janju's belly was the deformed remains of his twin brother, clinging to his insides and getting nourishment from him. As it turns out, he had one of the world's most bizarre medical conditions, fetus in fetu. It is an extremely rare abnormality that occurs when a fetus gets trapped inside its twin. The trapped fetus can survive as a parasite even past birth by forming an umbilical cord-like structure that leaches its twin's blood supply until it grows so large that it starts to harm the host, at which point doctors usually intervene. See you next time!